Yeah, I've been
Good.
playing a bunch of that Lethal Company game with some of my buddies. It's I know that it is not for everyone. Like if Kyle's mentioned a million times that what he likes in a game is what I like about Age of Empires 2. It's
Can I pause
destroying
you there?
something someone worked hard on. Yeah.
So I don't know anything about the game, and maybe some of the listeners are in my shoes too.
Yeah. So basically you and cooperative game, you and supposed to be four people on a ship, but we download something everybody does where you can have like up to 30 people in there. And so me and my buddies, we had like 10 of us in this little ship, and you all work for the company, which is like this evil space futuristic company. And they want you to go to these planets, these moons, and mine for scrap. And you have 3 days or so to hit your quota and then turn it in. And if you do, you can, earn money to pay for stuff like flashlights or walkie-talkies, boom boxes, whatever you want. And then there will be a higher quota. And there's, probably 7 moons you can go to. There's some that are free, that are easier, lower tier. And then there's some where, like, if you're really banging on all cylinders, and once you get like 8 turn-ins in, it's like, this is a ridiculous quota they're asking for. We're going to have to spend 400 of our space bucks just to buy a ticket to go to this rare moon so that we can hopefully make back our losses and everything. And there's also scarier monsters and stuff there. And it's a bunch of fun. You're like,
it sounds a little like the games where you like build a business. There's trucker simulator, farming simulator. There's lawnmower simulator, which I low key want to try.
It's more than that. Like you can die, you can be killed by monsters. I've died just as many times from like getting eaten up by quicksand or like falling into pits as I have from actual monsters, because you're like, at least me, like when I'm playing a game, I'm trying to like, when I'm playing Dead Space, I don't want to play it like, this is just a gay game, this isn't really scary. Like, I want the lights to be off, I want to be kind of spooked. Okay. And so if me and my buddy are walking around, and it's all proximity chat, and so one person stays on the ship to look at the radar and tell you where goods might be near you when you're in like the scary caves and the mansions and all that. Everybody else is out looking. And so I'm with a buddy, and it's like, all right, our hands are full, so we're walking kind of slow. We can't use our flashlights. You're in pretty much pitch black. And then like a couple of eyes will pop up. And sometimes it's a bug, a spooky bug that is giant, and you get a little time to flee. Other times it's this fucking ghoul with his like, it's the Hat Man effectively, and he just looks at you for 1 second and then just kills you. And so you'll be talking to your buddy, and like I was telling Kyle right before this, I was playing with my buddy Brett, and he was a Sherpa for me. Just last night we were in a new moon, and we were loaded to the gills with bottles and a nuclear light. A nuclear light is super valuable, so we got all this awesome stuff. And I'm
a nuclear light and old bottles?
Yes, and believe it or not, there's not as disparate a price there as you might imagine. So like you get like $49 for the old bottles, you get like $85 or something for the nuclear light. And so I'm like walking behind him, we're talking, and I'm like, man, I'm so glad you're here. We're so deep in these catacombs. I'd be fucked if it weren't for you. And then like on cue, the Hat Man pops up, and he's like, Taylor, the eyes are here. He's like, and he's just being mauled by this thing. And so as he's being eaten, he drops his flashlight. And so I start to run, and then I'm like, well, I can't leave his flashlight. That costs money. So I turn around and I pick up his flashlight from the dead body as he's being eaten. And then of course I check, the flashlight's got like 15% left. And so now I'm just running through these catacombs, just like strobe lighting the flashlight, trying to make it last, being like, do I take a left? Do I take a right? Neither of us had a walkie-talkie, so I can't walkie back. I'm just going to have to run and hope for the best. And then I actually made it out.
Nice.
I was eaten by a forest giant on the way back to the ship, but I made it out of the catacombs. Yeah.
Wait. Is that a victory?
No, I made it out of the catacombs.
I did pretty well by later dying.
Yes. Everyone gets eaten by the forest giant. There's nothing you can do about that.
Oh, and they make it a little annoying. Like in a lot of games, once you get back to your ship, it's like, we're good. We're Gucci. All the goods are here. We can just hang out and waiting for everybody to get back, and then we can all take off. I fucked up our team so bad the other night because I thought there's these electrified bees all over every map, and these bees shock you and sting you, but they're their hives are even more valuable than the nuclear light. And so you'll see these hives out there, and the way we do it is I'll be like, all right, Brett, you sprint past the bees, and you're going to die more likely than not, but then I'll grab the hive, take it back, and we'll store it. I thought that once you pulled the bees off of the hive, everything was fine, and like you could just have the hive. It turns out that's not how the game works. They will go back to the hive. And so like I cleverly duped the bees off of the hive, avoided them for a bit, picked up the hive, made it back to the ship, dropped the ship, the hive in the ship, and then like 30 seconds later, all of the bees showed up in the ship and killed me. And so then I'm just spectating every one of my friends who is out looking for things, and you can't talk to them anymore. And so they're like, this is great loot. Man, we're loaded with great loot. And I'm like, oh, when you get back, the bees in the ship. And so like one at a time, I watched my friends get back and like la-di-da into the ship to be consumed by bees. And so all of us died. Because
Could you
I
have
ruined
shut the door.
No,
That wouldn't have saved you from originally.
Can't even shut it.
you can shut it sometimes, but it's a hydraulic like slam shut door. But the second you slam it, a countdown starts because it'll be like 100 down to 0, and then once it gets to 0, it opens back up again. And unless
Everybody else is in a cave somewhere at the bottom of it with a flashlight looking
Yeah.
out for monsters.
I really
leave 'em.
I beefed up on this was my fault. Like everyone
But what
died.
is the move? Put it in the spaceship and then immediately go home?
Someone accidentally did it a few games after that. The move actually was to have like 3 people sprint into the ship at once through the bees, and the bees could only kill 2 of them. Because if you leave if you hit the lever to take off, then the bad guys will go away. And so it was 3 of them running and 2 of them getting consumed by electric bees, and then one of them was able to barely pull the trigger, and then he was saved.
There has to be a better plan than that.
Well, we know now that you want to save the beehives for last, because otherwise you get that situation. Yeah, the bees are so much harder in this game than you think. I've died many times just by walking too close to them.
By the way, this game looks like, I mean, a mobile game. Mobile games is way better than this game. It's like 2D, like Macintosh graphics.
It's ugly.
I don't want to be like the party pooper, but every time I look at the game or play the game, I'm like, when does the fun part start? At what point does the thing that is fun happen? And they're like, no, you've got to get all the stuff. We need all the junk, Kyle, the nuclear lights. I'm like, all right, great, let's get it. We'll sell it and we'll get some fun stuff, right? Oh, you don't even know, boom boxes and shovels and flashlights. We're going to be loaded. And I'm like, yeah, that'll be cool. But then we'll be able to explore even harder, right? And they're like, you don't even know how much harder. And I'm like, then we'll have the fun, right?
Pointy shovels out there. Wait till you get that.
The only weapons are shovels
No
or
more
yield
blisters
signs.
for you.
and they were like, yeah, well, basically, it's not about fighting. It's about getting the loot. And I'm like, yeah, but why? Why do we care for the loot? What does the loot get us for us? Because to give you an example, in Rust or Tarkov, in Rust, I might find a piece of loot. Oh, I can now use this to learn how to make more of it. Now, because I found an MP5, I now know how to make MP5s.
Mm.
Or in Tarkov, if I say find like some powdered gravy on a shelf, oh, I can sell this to the powdered gravy man. He'll give me 500 rubles, and then I'll use
powdered gravy now.
No, but you hear me.
I don't know.
I'm kind of I'm hungry. I'm sorry. and you take the money you made from gravy and you can spend it on ammunition later.
Yeah.
And the fun part will come when I use that ammunition to shoot at an enemy player and kill him. And now he doesn't he gets no powdered gravy.
Yeah.
And I like that, because I'm going to take all his things and sell them and buy more bullets to shoot at more people, because I like when I click the person and they fall over and they're mad back at their computer. But in your game, and forgive me, in Lethal Company, I'm just like, I don't think there's ever going to be a point in this game where I'm having fun unless I pretend like I'm enjoying like this.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. Like it's basically like a Tetris style game where like you're not going to win. Like the point is you're trying to keep it going as long as possible, because it gets harder.
I play
and harder
Tetris
and harder
to beat
and
the
harder.
other guy who's also trying to play Tetris. We're playing War Tetris, and I'm trying to stack my blocks
favorite part about
longer than he
this
can.
show so far has been the powdered gravy. Like when you play Super Mario Brothers, you get the filet mignon, you jump higher. I'm like, wait, what? I'm hungry. Forgive me.
He is. He's famished.
There's never a part in Lethal Company where I'm like, oh, this is the fun part. Because what I'm thinking is like maybe if I had a shotgun and shooting them, they had cool animations and blood and they screamed. And this is when everybody pipes up, oh, there's a mod for a shotgun. It's not made. The game's not made for that, though. It's not a game about going in and killing the monsters. And I hate those games. I hate those stealthy. Like there's an Alien game, Alien Isolation. It's a lot of people love it. I've watched people play it. I fucking hate it. You have to sneak around in bitch mode the whole time. They give you a gun. Good luck. If you shoot one of the robots in that game 20 times in the face, he'll die. You've got a 6-shooter with 8 bullets. Fuck you. Like you can never kill anything.
I have to interrupt. You can play Tarkov in 1,000 different ways.
Yeah.
Kyle's favorite way is to sneak around in bitch mode with nothing but a pistol and get the goods. So he's describing his favorite kind of game when he tells you how much he hates it.
Yeah, you should play.
No, but in my game, I kill them and I take their things.
No, you don't. You avoid. You hide in bitch mode because all you have is a 6-shooter.
You wouldn't get satisfied. Like the fun part of the game is number one, making fun of your friends for pulling bonehead maneuvers. And like when it's like 4 of you are dead and there's only 2 guys left alive, like the 4 people in chat being like, oh, there's no chance these fucking retards are going to make it. Like, and then the other fun part is like when you're the last retard alive and I've done this a couple times and it's satisfying. Like if everyone dies, you lose everything. You're fucked. You're going to get fired, which means they take up space and shoot you out. And
so you can't play the game anymore?
You have to restart. You have to start a new game. Oh. And so you don't want that to happen. But the fun part is like the equivalent of clutching it in like a search and destroy, where you're loaded up with stuff and you're like in a dark catacomb and you somehow, you're not just like, not every monster is like it shows up and kills you immediately. Like the Hat Man's just bad luck. There's like ooze on the ground and there's bugs and there's stuff you can actually escape if you're like sly. And so like you can be like sprint jumping around things. And then if you actually make it back to the ship afterward, we're like, oh, I dodged the bugs. I dodged the ooze. I made it out. And then I tricked the forest giant, by squatting and like crouching around him and being sneaky. And then I almost got, beat up, but then the bees, I slipped them too. You get back on the ship and it's like, yeah, I rule. Everybody's really stoked on me for getting back to the ship because you need one person to launch the ship or everything's lost. Every death takes more and more percentage. And so it's simple and it's silly, but it's a fun like group hangout game.
I was watching Pastilli's video yesterday about he was talking about the new Tarkov Arena mode. I think he gave it a 4 out of 10. He really dislikes it.
Ooh, okay.
And he was like, well, first of all, it's a really fun game to play with all your friends, but you could throw rocks at a tree and have fun with all your friends if you got together, right? Like we could sit here and I was like, you totally could. And that's how I feel about Lethal Company. It's throwing rocks at trees. It's like, did you hit it? Yeah. I hit it too. I think you hit it better. No way to ever know, and it doesn't matter. Here's a smooth one. Like that's Lethal Company to me. Like we're not keeping score. Doesn't matter if we missed the tree. Hey, we could always walk over there and recover our rocks if we need to. That's Lethal Company.
Well, I'm never mad at anybody on my team in Lethal Company.
You should be though. Then why are we playing?
Dick, do you game at all anymore on Twitch, or are you still doing your piano streams? You're singing?
No, I haven't really done any Twitch streams. While you guys were having that big rocket shooting day, I was finding all the stars and stamps in Mario 3D World from 2012. That was a pretty big accomplishment.
Full weekend. Yeah,
I spent a full weekend doing that. It's pretty cool.
That sounds boring as shit. What game is that?
Mario 3D World.
I never played Mario 3D World. I quit Mario after Super Mario 64.
What? Why?
Because I was like 10 playing it and I was annoyed that I couldn't get like the final. I didn't have like the guide and I didn't know where to go to like get the last couple stars. And so I got sick of it and just quit. Same with Donkey Kong 64. I searched high and low on every island with every ape, even the orangutan who shot the peas out of the fucking pea shooter. And I could not find like the last few golden bananas. Lost interest, quit it. Never looked back.
My girlfriend and I are playing the new Mario game, but it's like we can only play it together. So we're only on like World 3, and it's kind of like aggravating because she goes to sleep early for school the next day. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess who wants to play the same game for 6 hours? Not me. I guess I'll just wait for next weekend.
Is she bad at it? Like, are you like the way better player? And it's annoying.
Well, I mean,
You're obviously the better player. You're the man.
We all know how women drive. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it's you play at the same time. So, but it's still can't play until we're
You
playing.
should play Lethal Company. Did you like it, Taylor? I never got your full review. We ended up playing separately. I got on and hated it so much that I got off and uninstalled it.
Oh no, you should reinstall it. It's exactly what we talked about. It's basically this game, and it's kind of like Among Us in that it's not similar to Among Us, but it's like a game where the gameplay isn't really what it's about. It's about like working together and like the silliness and nonsense that happens. But you're basically you and 3 other people. It's supposed to have a max of 4 players, but all my friends that are playing it, we downloaded a mod so you can have up to 32 people on a team. And so we've been playing with like 8-9 people. And you are these space, basically trash men who are on this crappy ship, and you have to fly into these like abandoned planets that have monsters and problems and like quicksand and places to fall and die. And you have to collect your quota of whatever goods you can find. So you might be like, oh, I found a nuclear light. This is really good. This is 80, space units. Oh, I found this plastic piece of like brush or something. That's only worth like 4. And so you and this team, you're going out and you're trying to collect stuff. But the game chat works the way that a lot of others do. Like I think you said Rust is, where
proximity chat.
It's proximity chat. And so you can only hear the people that are close to you. And if you're like in some shitty warehouse, you hear them like echoed, and they echo, more the further they get away, fades.
Huh.
If you're in a canyon, it echoes like that. And you are having to communicate using walkie-talkies, and usually someone stays back at the ship because there's a little module there that tells you where stuff is as your teammates search out. And so you're having to like
shopping. Like you just go.
You're basically looking. It's not like you're walking around and seeing a bunch of different stuff. Like you might spend 10 minutes.
You're in a maze of a building.
You're in a maze of a building, or you're in a maze of wildlife, and there's monsters that are like kind of like fucking creepy. Like there's like a torso monster that some of them are pretty spooky, and you have like no defense. The only weapon you can buy, the way you get money in it is like you have to use some of the funds you got from selling stuff. And the way it works is you have to like every 3 days go to the company and put your stuff on this platform and then make it as an offering. And if it's enough, you get to go back and continue with like a now higher quota, but you get to keep the flashlights, the walkie-talkies that you still have. Whereas in the beginning, like the first run, you really don't have any walkie-talkies. You don't have any flashlights. You just have to go out there and look.
Let me ask you this.
And the more people that die, every death attributes a penalty to your quota. So if like everybody goes out and dies, it's not just like, oh, we had a bad run. It's like, no, you're going to lose fucking everything. And so if someone dies and you hear them, and the way it goes, it's funny. It's like me and my buddy, Tyler are running around. He's like, there's a monster over here. And it's like, oh, he got him. Someone got Tyler. Should I wander in? I need to get his body because we're really close to quota and we can get 5 points for his body if I can retrieve it. But if we don't retrieve it, then we lose 20% of our total take because we lost a body. And so you're in there trying to pull it out and recover. It's a silly game, but it's really fucking fun. Like it's a silly, fun game. It's fun to hear someone like on the walkie-talkie be like, copy, there's bottles here. Just found some bottles. All right, there's a noise. And then they like scream and freak out, and then it cuts off because they're being chased. And it gets your heart pumping because the monsters are so poorly rendered and ridiculous that they're almost spooky. Like it's a fun game. You should try it again.
There's a monster that records your voice and then plays it back to your teammates.
Oh,
yeah,
Predator.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I didn't get to the part where there's fun. I couldn't figure out what was supposed to be fun.
How
I
far
wanted
did
to
you get
kill
into
the monsters.
You can kill the monsters. You just have to have a shovel to hit them with, and you're not going to win most fights.
That really and so that means that it's like it's not a fighty game; it's a survival game. And I I don't like that. I want to kill the monsters. It
Oh.
seems what I'm getting at is if at no point we're going to get so much junk collected that we're badasses and now the tables have turned monsters, that's what I need to grind towards. Otherwise, it seems like I'm like, oh, look, I got a flashlight on my head now so I can find more junk. And now my quota's higher. And now I've got a radio so I can find more junk. And it's like, I don't want to find junk. Finding the junk wasn't fun. It was like 3 games in and me and Scum just stayed in the ship. And I don't mean to operate a module. We just didn't want to go. We just let them
want to
go
look
in.
around.
We don't
Well,
want to
maybe
play
you-
anymore.
If you don't like it, you don't like it. But like,
I'd give it another shot.
It is, yeah.
I
You
think-
should give it a shot. Me and my buddies are playing. I might play tonight after this if they're still on. It seems so simple and easy, but it can go off the rails so
What's it on?
rapidly. It's on PC.
Steam.
Yeah, Steam.
Shit.
Yeah,
so
it's a
it
$10
doesn't
game.
take like anything to run. It's super, light. It's like one of the aesthetically, it's offensively ugly. This game,
Yes.
like it's really ugly, but it's fun to like be in the ship with your boys and like make fun of people who died in stupid ways. There are like jumps, like a platformer that they make. Like in every building, there's one area where like you have to jump off of this onto like a I-beam and then crawl across it, get somewhere else, and it will randomly make the jump harder or easier. And I have died so many times, like just because I'll jump across, kill myself, and then I can hear everybody making fun of me. Or other times you're like, I'm walking with a big group and I'm like, hey, there's stuff over here. And then like I get killed by one of those head monsters that attacks and kills me. And then I'm watching, spectating. I can't talk to him anymore, obviously. And I hear like my buddies going the wrong direction where they're like, maybe one of those monsters takes my voice and is now saying it from a different direction. They're like, Taylor's still alive. He's over here. But it's not. It's a monster luring them to get them out.
See, I like games where like me and you go in, we're like, hey, what kind of clothes you got? The nice. You got a shotgun? Good. I got a fucking sniper rifle. All right. Let's try to stay alive and try to kill those guys so that we can take their shit and then we'll have more shit next time we play. We'll stash this back at our house. Any game that gives me that mechanic, like Rust, Tarkov, any extraction shooter, I guess. To some extent, Dark and Darker, which I keep trying to get into, but I'm just so dog shit at that I can't play. Dark and Darker is basically Dungeons and Dragons, except you go in with your. If you go when you get killed by other players, if they take your shit, they take it out, and now they've got your shit, and they can sell it to buy better shit. So the longer you play, the more money you make, and now you're a wizard with a fancier hat and a bigger like.
Well, that's just a way more in-depth game than this. Like if you're looking for that, you won't get it here, but like you won't get the chance to accumulate lots of stuff. Like getting a radio is expensive. And so it's not like second game, oh, everybody has a radio now? Everybody has a flashlight now? Great. It's like the first game, it's like, all right, we have $40 and flashlights are $15 and radios are $12. There's 7 of us. Let's try and keep like a team going here. All right, we'll get a couple of radios. And then if anyone who's holding something dies, that's removed from your team. So like, unless they remember to pick it up and you don't have a huge amount of carrying capacity. And so you're constantly losing shit. Like one game you might be teched out with, and teched out is effectively a walkie-talkie and a flashlight. And then you die, no one brings your body back or picks your shit up. And now you're potentially in the hole for the next one. Like you're always battling the quota and it's much harder than you would think. And then if you lose and you die, they just take you out and they eject you into space and you lose the game.
I want you to play
fun.
One of my favorite games with me sometime, and
What
that's
is it?
Rust.
Rust?
We're gonna play
I'll-
some Rust We're playing Rust this week. Nothing is required of you. Just log in and like look around and goof around. You don't need to be good at anything. You can just wander the world of Rust and experience it.
I bought Rust a while ago. I will download it, put it on my PC. We'll play some. And if you change your mind on this game, let me know because we've been having a good time.
Here's the problem. Here's why it wasn't fun. I already know why it wasn't fun. I was playing with people who are like already knew how to play the game, so nothing was being explained. They just kept piling the junk up, and I didn't want to play anymore. That was part of it. But also, I don't know which part of the gameplay loop I'm ever going to like, but I will give it some more fun because the interaction is obviously the whole point of the game.
A lot of it's just like fucking goofing off. Like I didn't know. No one in our group told me that quicksand was even part of the game. But if you walk into quicksand, like your guy gets stuck and then you drown to death. And so like
Pretty funny.
6 of our 7 party all like jumped off the front of the ship to try and get an early run into a run. All 6 of us drowned to death. And so it was like, oh fuck, like we're definitely gonna lose now.
People build bases in Rust that are like, imagine an octagon that goes up for like 10 stories. Each story has horse stalls in them with the asses pointed inward. So you've got like, so they're all shitting out and it's falling down to the bottom where they're collecting it and mass producing fertilizer to sell. Like that's just one of the businesses that people build in Rust to finance like the way that they buy guns and ammo and shit. They'll trade it. I think you might be able to make
I'm a
explosives
fertilizer
with it.
man.
I saw the base today, and like back when I haven't played in a couple
That
of years.
sounds
but
way better than your game, Taylor. Of 10
I'm a horse shit farmer.
My game does sound pretty fucking gay now. Yeah, Mario, you're playing fucking Mario. We're playing poo games and trash collector. that's what you got to be doing as a true gamer or true gamesman.
I like if when I lose, I want to feel bad, like genuinely upset a little bit. And when I win, I want not only to feel pretty good about it, but I want them to hurt. I want when they log on, if I've killed them and taken all their shit, I want to be like, fuck, man, my day's different now because somebody came. I want to do that to them when you kill them in the game. And there's a few games that do that. And those are always my favorites.
The only game I like that does that is Age of Empires 2. Like I like fucking up somebody's base that they spent a long time on. That's fun. But other than that, I like the quick turnaround games. Just like Call of Duty. I don't even like Call of Duty, but that style. Like, oh, but that game went shitty. 2 minutes from now, we'll be in a new one.
So, Dick, Rust is this survival game where you start out with a rock, but you compete with everybody else to get to the point where you're like running around with AKs and armor and night vision and shit, and you build a base that stays there for days of real world time. You're playing this game continuously, and when people go to sleep because they got school and jobs and shit, me and my boys wake up at 4 a.m. and you see everybody ba-bloom, 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 logging on at 4 fucking a.m. And we go and we blow one of the walls off their base, jump in their shit that they've been grinding for all week, and just kill them. We get what's called building permission, which means now we can build in this structure. We repair the wall we made, and we actually turn it into a door that only we have a key to. So now there used to be a wall here. Now there's a door that's not even their door that leads in. And now we're in there with their sleeping bodies. It's like, there he is, the mother. And you see their name above their head. And Rust is a game where you bump into these guys all day long. You start off with bows and arrows fighting over deer. And then you're like maybe a semi-automatic rifle and a shotgun, like hiding outside of his door. He comes out of his house. You shoot him in the ass, steal all his shit, disappear into the woods. He sees your name every time. You build this animosity. And there's void in game. So they show up and they don't hold back. This is a game where people decorate their bases with swastikas and the N-word. Like there's no holds barred. So people so when you show up in the middle of the night at 4 a.m. and take all their shit, it feels good. Because now they can't play anymore when you take their base away. Now they got to start from scratch. They got to go back to hitting trees. You know,
man, this is way better than Mario that I've been playing.
Yeah, I'll play if I can be head of base design. We're gonna have a lot of confusing ideologies.
Swastikas. What do you guys think of that? Well, it's going the wrong way.
It's gonna have a big swastika with just the thinnest, smallest bad pointed at it. giant swastika.
Very thin red line right through it.
Just the imperceptible except for the right angle. Yeah.
Your mic's coming in and out like a networky thing.
Mine is
Taylor's.
Yeah, it sounds robot-y, right?
Not for me.
No.
Oh no!
There's
Is this a sign of things to come? Am I still sounding robot-y to you?
No.
Maybe I've had nobody hears it but me, so it's on my end. Don't worry about it.
Zach says no, sir. Okay, we're good.
Good.
Oh, I just noticed your
Vampire Survivor big time a couple months ago, maybe over the summer. Where I don't know, have you guys ever played that Vampire Survivor?
I haven't heard of it. What is it?
You're like a little guy and you pick a weapon and then you can upgrade your weapons, which is like my favorite part of any game.
Mm-hmm.
And you can upgrade them in like paths so the weapons combine, and then eventually you're it's like Gauntlet. You remember the old Nintendo game Gauntlet, where you're one guy walking around, there's just people coming at you constantly. so you got to upgrade your shit faster than they're coming at you. But the best part was every game only lasted a half hour, so I could sit down and go like, all right, half hour, I'll be done. I'm gonna go do stuff, but then I'd still be there 7 hours later
on your 14th game. Yeah. Is it like a first-person shooter?
No, it looks like it's from the 80s. It looks like total shit. It's all pixely. I don't think I can understand games that have when the graphics are too good. I kind of lose track of what's happening.
When did that happen for you? What was the game that you're like, I'm out?
One of the Call of Duties. I remember, or maybe Gears of War 2, Gears of War 1 or 2. I remember sitting down with my brother-in-law going, I feel like a child looking at this, or like a woman trying to play this game, and I don't think I can catch up.
I never.
That
got
was a
into
hard game
Gears
to
of War.
play. I always suffered so much at the PvP in the Gears games. Like I couldn't snipe people. I couldn't perfect the roll and shotgun people. I'd wound them. They'd roll into me and like one tap me, and my body would come apart. They pop my head from so far. They just fucking roll at. It's that hand-eye coordination of just putting that tiny little reticle. You doing the mouse, but it was console. Like I couldn't do it. It was like Halo either. I couldn't snipe in that game either.
I have a fun as shit game that we rarely play. My girlfriend bought it. She won't play it. It's a horror survival game in VR. So you put the goggles on and you have like a belt. But if you need to reload your gun or change anything, you have to do it correctly. Like you have to put your hand down, holster the gun, get the axe out, and then swing as the zombies are coming around. And you're kind of in like a old style like concentration camp almost. Like all the walls are wooden and there's spikes and all this scary shit happening.
And they made Nazi zombies for VR. It sounds like.
Be.
It's
fucking terrifying though, because you'll hear them coming, but you can only see where you're looking with your actual head in real life, and you can duck and peek and stuff. But it's a fun game.
Well, we were just talking about our gaming ideas. I've been playing a bunch of DayZ. You're wanting to play this Lethal Company game with me finally. I've poisoned you enough, or your brother has.
You tag teamed me. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, if Kyle and my brother are talking about it, this must be a real humdinger of a game. And only $9.99. When people freak out about games this cheap, it's usually like it's like a steal. It's like, can you believe how much fun we're having for this game? That's like a cost of a Chipotle burrito. Usually they're $80 now.
Freak out about a game that cheap. It's usually a meme. Like Among Us. Was Among Us that good?
Well, Among Us wasn't a meme. That was one of the most played games of all time that took over all forms of social media, and every big streamer on the planet played it. Celebrities. AOC was playing that game in front of 1 million people live or some shit. That game was a phenomenon.
It not a meme?
No.
Memes are phenomenons too.
Memes are like, remember the Knuckles thing where they're in VR and Sonic Knuckles is like, you are not the queen, spit on the queen. That's a meme. That's this little thing in the corner of the internet that like we get exposed to and haha, silly, and then it's gone a week later. Among Us was a big deal. I hate Among Us. I thought it was.
Wait, I'm still stuck on this meme, baby. You act like a meme is a very unpopular, barely known thing, Woody. You know, like Pepe the Frog. Like, dude.
Okay, you wouldn't say Call of Duty's a meme though. There's different. When you say a game is a meme, you're disrespecting.
Fully developed game coming out of a AAA studio.
You didn't play this year's game, clearly.
True.
The last one.
But like, I guess I'm thinking old COD is, it's a AAA big time game. Among Us is a simple thing in an indie studio, I assume, and the gameplay was really like Fall Guy. I would call a meme too.
I wouldn't say those are me. Like those Fall Guys is like still decently popular.
Fall Guys is revolutionary. Fall Guys is revolutionary
platform.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's not a platformer. It's combining platforming and battle royale for the first time in a way that again took over the internet. If you look at us, I bet there's streamers.
It was fun.
So many streamers bought their houses playing that game. They would not think it's a meme. They're like, what are you talking about? I make $1.3 million playing Among Us. Like it was not a meme. It's not
an insult. It's just I'm trying to describe a game that has a really simple premise. It's not deep.
And Among Us is kind of like Codenames. Like Codenames isn't an incomplete meme game because it's so simple and silly. Like the game of Codenames is a lot of the tactics and like banter and trying to convince people
Interpersonal
something
stuff.
else. Yeah. Same with
Mhm.
Among Us. Like that game could have looked like fucking anything. And as long as it
Yeah.
facilitated, because it's like, what do they need you to do? Oh, you need to go hold X near the wires. Because it's not really about holding X near the wires. It's about your ability to defend that you really were holding X near the wires in the group chat or whatever afterward.
It took the word
And it-
sus and made it mainstream. I
That it did.
never heard of sus before Among Us.
I don't know if it was around before Among Us.
Yeah. So like, I'm definitely not claiming it to be unpopular or unprofitable or to counter any of the arguments you made. I'm just saying it's so simple and lame. Like it.
Well,
I don't know.
Oh, I
Legal
don't think
company-
simple games are necessarily lame. Sometimes those are the cool, like compared to a lot of shooters, like the pushback I'll hear about Borderlands, which I know you enjoy as a franchise. Like they'll be like, oh, it looks so goofy. It looks like Archer. It's like cell shaded. It's like, yeah, I don't care. That's like kind of neat. Borderlands rocks. It's a great franchise. I don't look at guns in Borderlands and then guns in COD or Rust and be like, Borderlands needs to get on their level. It's like, no way.
The cell shading of Borderlands. I don't want to use Genius because it wasn't that complicated. But here's what happened. They built that whole game out. It wasn't going to be cell shaded. Like that just wasn't in the cards. That wasn't how they designed it. And then afterwards, they're like, this shit's a 6 out of 10. Like, let's not play their game. Let's not be a shitty looking shooter where you walk around and get bugs. Let's make it a cartoon or something. Cell shade this
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
drop the foot of
Apparently-
realism.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's an effect that they can just like decide to drop on. It's not complicated at all.
Mm.
And
Body
and
panels.
then boom, they stopped trying to compete in the realism game, like
Yeah.
most games do, and went in a different direction. And I think it really worked for them.
100%. Like I like the way Borderlands universe looks. It's so unique and cool, and it plays into the cartoonishness of the monsters and the beasts and everything. Like it's,
Yes.
I love Borderlands.
It really well phrased. Like it's unique and it's different. If cell shading became a popular thing, I don't think Borderlands would compete very well. Like it's
yeah,
it's a
it might
simple
not.
game. Yeah,
But this Lethal Company one, 130,000 overwhelmingly positive reviews. So that seems like a good indication it's going to be fun.
So I haven't played it or even bought it, but I've watched enough and caught enough of it through just the world that it seems to me that you and 3 of your friends work for a very terrible company who has these tasks for you to do. Like, Bob, we need you to go down to Sector 1 and pick up the spinning wheel thingy. Bring it back here with you, and you'll get, your points or you'll win or whatever. I don't know how the game works, but what I've noticed is then they have to run around this lair that's always full of awful monsters. It's like survival, not survival. It's horror with monotonous tasks and teamwork and co-op. But also instead of teamwork, I watch General Sam, so he usually just pushes his friend down the hole and lets his friend get eaten by the monsters and then runs in and scores the point or whatever.
It's its own strategy.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm definitely down to play. I think it'll be a real hoot with 3 or 4 people
Yeah,
playing.
I'll give
live.
it a go for sure.
I was talking about DayZ and how like that's the first PC game I ever played. When I got when I first some PC company wanted to build me a PC. It's a long story, but they built me a PC, sent me a PC. I didn't want it because I was mad about like they were anti-gun or something, and so they would give me the PC, but they wouldn't let me tell people they gave it to me. It's like, you're ashamed of me, like it really pissed me off. I had to have this meeting with their owner. Anyway, I've got this PC that I don't want to play. And finally, I get around to it. I pull it out of it's just sitting there brand new for weeks and months, maybe. And I
what
pull
a
it out.
terrible business strategy.
It was, well, they had agreed to do it, but then they backtracked. But they didn't want to go back on their word, but they also didn't want to be associated with firearms. They were LA based, and the guy was fruity. So I put DayZ in because everybody says that's the game. And I just remember for an hour just walking around and starving to death and getting beaten to death by zombies. And I'm like, where are the guns? I've got my. You're punching for a long time.
Where's
in
the
that
fun
game.
part?
You're just punching zombies, and they get you, and you're dead. And it was like, we're not even in a map really. We're just kind of down by the docks, and like I can see so far in every direction that that's still kind of what it is, but it's so much better now. It's so much more than that now. And like you said, sometimes it's not just the mechanics of the game, but how players interact in it. In COD, there's no interaction, right? You might hear the death cam, "Fuck you, pussy,"
Yeah.
or you might hear, "Fuck, he shot me again," or something like that. But in this game,
Or something else.
or something else, in words, In this game, there's a lot of this social interaction where you can hold people up because you go in there and you've spent an hour and a half literally getting like your backpack and like maybe a shotgun, but you don't have the shells yet, and a pistol, but you've got one bullet for it, which is good because you can commit suicide in this game. And press F11 to like blow your, and you do it too. You just,
How would that help you? Is it like, oh, this is a terrible place to be starting? Boom.
That, or like you break your leg and you don't have a splint, because that's what you can do to people. That's why people say yes and agree to be held up, and even if they're not role players, because if I shoot you in the leg, I ruin your whole playthrough.
And you got to restart, basically.
You have to restart, and it's not like in Rust. In Rust, for example, the maps are big, but they're not gargantuan. If you spawn me on the wrong side of the map in Rust, I'll be back in 10 minutes, you bitch. I know where you live. Not in this game. It's like, fuck, I'm on the other side of eternity now. So people will be like, I give up. What do you need? I'll give you whatever you want. Like, and you can make them do awful things. You can make them eat raw meat or human meat. You can handcuff
them sick. Yeah.
Yeah, you can tie them up and bind them. And the keys for the handcuffs might be the rarest item in the whole game. But handcuffs are everywhere.
The keys, they can't figure that out from all the scrap metal laying around.
So I watch a guy called Stimpy, and he's just evil. First of all, he can do like 3 nationality accents convincingly. If he needs to be a guy from the Netherlands, suddenly he is. If he needs to be Australian, English, I think he is English. He'll do a Southern American sometimes, and he'll blend in with these groups, and they'll be all around a fireplace eating, trying to survive, and he's sneak feeding them human meat.
So he's just a terrible guy.
Like, you can feed people and bandage people without them saying, yeah, give it to me. So you can kind of come up behind them when they're busy and in a menu and do this animation, and you can like feed them guts or raw meat, and they'll get blood infection. They'll be like, oh, I've got a blood infection, and they're vomiting. And you can be like, oh, here, drink this water. But it's not water, it's gasoline, but they can't tell. It's just a bottle I handed them. So they're glug, 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 drinking the gasoline.
Oh, this water ruined my
much
health.
Sicker. Yeah. It's real shitty the way people treat each other. And that's the fun part, I guess. Although the survival is challenging as fuck, it's very hard just to stay alive in that game.
Yeah, but I'm like imagining like sneaking around all deft and sly and like slipping food into someone's pot. Like what would actually happen is people would just be like feeding me rotten eggs. And I'd be like, this game sucks. Why am I so sick all the time? They'd be like, well, people are feeding you rotten quail eggs they found on the floor.
He'll frame people. He'll feed someone human meat, which and eventually it makes you go crazy, human meat, and you start giggling, which notifies people you've got a cannibal in your group. So he'll frame people for being cannibals like that. Or there was one when they're cooking a can of beans on a stove. Him and 4 other guys. We're all gonna take a sip of beans when they get hot because it's frozen outside. And he keeps taking the beans off the stove and but you don't reach out and take them; they just disappear. So no one knows who took them. And the guy who owns the can is like, the fuck? Stop taking the beans. But he never moves or says a word while everybody else goes back and forth. It's not me. Like, so eventually the bean owner goes and kills 2 of them that he thinks are bean thieves. The real bean thief slicks it in their pocket real quick and goes, aha! He was the bean thief all along. And then everybody's like, yeah, you got him, bro. We got the bean thief. But Stimpy's over there. I'm going to do more than steal beans next time.
So they're just chaotic evil. It's not even chaotic neutral.
He there's a whole series of videos I've seen where you'll meet someone, they'll be like, sitting there over a fire, both of you are roasting meat, having like a conversation, and the guy's like, I'm so glad I met you, bro. Everybody in this game's so mean. And then there's a quick cut and the guy's laying there dead, and our guy's wearing his coat now, and that repeats over and over. The guy will have a gun and he'll be like, oh man, it's a nice gun you got there, and the guy go, thanks. Quick cut, now he's examining it. It's like, man, that's a nice hat you've got. It's a wolf headdress, huh? Yeah, it's pretty sick. You got to kill a wolf. You got to kill 3 wolves. And he's like, neat.
He's walking around like Kramer the pimp, this fucking fur coat and his his big top hat. That does sound like a fun game.
It can be fun if you know how to play it and make it fun for yourself. But it's one of those games that, like I said, when I tried it that first time, when it was in that early alpha stage, God, it was an obnoxious game. It wasn't a game.
If I have to run across the wilderness punching trees, and then I meet up, link up with my bros, and then they're like secretly poisoning me with killer beans, I'm going to quit. I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck you guys. I'm done with this game. You wasted an hour and a half of my time just so you could get me sick.
That's the thing, though. The people who play that game, or a lot of the people who play that game, view that as valuable gameplay, like because they see it as a role-playing experience. So getting poisoned and treated badly, well,
Part of the role play.
went poorly this time, but that was the role-play experience. Next time I will be craftier. And they sort of, so that means the whole community becomes kind of nasty over time. So I don't know. I've been enjoying DayZ, but I'm down to play this Lethal Company game for sure.
Yeah, I'll
That's what happened to me
download
when I
this
played DayZ. I had a hard time with the nastiness, and oftentimes I play with fans. It's like, okay, there's 11 of us. We are a force on this even a giant island like this, 11 people is a force. You don't fuck with that. And I'm not good, but I'm playing with people who are good. Therefore, I am powerful. I am leading powerful people. Therefore, I am powerful.
Yes.
Mhm.
And our goal was to like get a helicopter and fly around, which we did. However, while we made that happen, people were turning on each other, shooting each other, like not. And I'm like, man, he was on our team, and now he's dead for good. Like that's it, he's dead. And they're like, Woody, you knew at this. If we didn't kill him, he was going to kill us. I'm like, he gave no indication that he was going to turn on us. Like, welcome to DayZ. That's how you play.
We're like
And
a
it-
call center here. A lot Like,
Yeah. I still don't know if he was making good calls. He was more experienced than me. That's undoubtable.
Yeah.
But
Sometimes someone will get ill or injured in a way that if we don't want to waste 10 or 20 minutes, like fixing them up a little bit, it's like, got to cut our losses with you, like we're not going to find any, what blood type are you? Yeah, we're not going to find any more of that out here. You're done. And that's the thing. You can, if you, I found a blood collection thing and I'm like, what do I do with this? I looked it up. You collect blood from people, but only if they're the right blood type, because you get that hemoglobin poisoning or whatever if you put some AB negative into your B positive body,
when you pull up your character sheet, is it like B positive?
I don't know where you find that
Genetic
information.
disposition towards schizophrenia.
Yeah.
No, don't sneak weed into my tobacco pipe. I'll lose my mind.
Yeah. It's very in-depth, very complicated, but I like mean games like that. And I want to play Tarkov so bad, but man, the cheaters. I talked to Class a couple days ago, and he's like, I never stopped playing. It's so full of cheaters. 40% of the matches, or I think he said 40% of my deaths are cheaters, like undeniable cheaters every time. And I played a little bit, and I swear to God, Woody, my third scav mission in scav game, I find a LEDX on woods, and I'm like, hoo-hoo! I don't even discover it because then I'll see it for real. I leave the question mark fuzziness over it or whatever. Someone like warped to my position within 30 seconds and killed me. And it was like, what?
Well, wait, how do you
just
know they
happened
warped?
here? I'm out in the middle of nowhere in a field, like, and it's a scat. There's like 10 minutes left in a woods raid, and this geared guy, like finds me right after I picked it up, and it had been quiet for 15 minutes or something. It just was real sus.
You just
That's the challenge with Tarkov. Like, it's a low information environment. As a matter of fact, you could be much better on the mouse and keyboard than me, but if I have more information, I probably win that encounter. And it's just info. So when you die, you're like, well, shit, I got one shot to the head. I've killed plenty of people one shot to the head, and I don't have any cheats. I don't even know where I'd find them. So when I die that way, you can't. That's what it's like to die to a cheater, but that's also what it's sometimes like to die to a regular player.
Yeah, I had never seen. I've seen cheaters be jumping and flying around a lot while they shoot, and
Right.
I always thought, oh, that's a dead ringer for a cheater. And then I saw a player who does it, a player who jumps and does these crazy jump shots from the hip at range. And I'm like, all right, well, how do you fucking tell now? If this guy can do this.
Willers, do you know Willers? Do you ever watch him?
Yeah, we have Willers on the show.
Oh yeah. All right. So he has the best parkour scores I know of in Tarkov. He gets his strength high, and I think he likes to maybe even boost. And man, fighting him there's a verticality to it. He's jumping on cargo containers. If you don't play this game, you can't jump on cargo containers. They're too high. But he knows just what fucking hood to hit, land on an antenna to get on a cargo, something like that.
And he's slick with it. You'd be there for 10 minutes in a private game trying to get up where he is, and he does it under pressure, like bullets are coming at him, and he's up the antenna, turn 180 degrees, catch the windowsill, crouch for a millisecond and,
Yeah.
and walk to my left. And it's
People
just like,
lose
what
them.
did you do?
They're like, "Where'd he go? I was in a fight with Willers. He's standing on their heads." And they're just like, I don't understand. Like, what's happening?